Hi friends, welcome to Bookish Bliss, our virtual book club. Every week we will dig into a section of chapters in our favorite books. Let's get started!
Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 22 of Bookish Bliss. We have a lot to discuss today.
Yes, this week we'll be covering chapters 1 through 14 of A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas. There will be no spoilers beyond the covered chapters. You don't have to read the whole book to listen. You just have to be caught up on the chapters we're covering. Amanda, what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking a prickly pear high noon because it's
A prickly
summer.
pear?
Prickly pear, yep. It's summer, it's refreshing, and I love them. What are you drinking tonight, Megan?
I've never seen a prickly pear one before. I am
Really?
drinking an open bottle that I already have of a yellowtail Shiraz.
Ooh,
So I'm
Shiraz.
just gonna drink this. It's a little warm for red wine, but that's all I have in the house is red wine.
Megan's
So
gonna sweat for us tonight.
we're sweating. I had to turn the air conditioner off for you guys. That's how much I love you. So
Yes.
with the air conditioner on in my apartment, it was already 76 degrees with it on.
Wow.
Now that it's
Yeah.
off, if you see sweat dripping down my face, just know it's a form of hot yoga. I don't know. Oh, and my
Good
shirt,
sign.
I'll show you guys.
Yes.
It has like the Bat Boys.
Yes, I love it.
I'm so excited. I've been looking for this thing for weeks and I finally found it. I mean, 22 weeks to be exact. And it
Literally.
just literally showed up in my drawer today. I didn't put it in there, it just magically was there.
Thank you, fairy gods.
Yes.
All right. Did you
Oh,
pour
cheers.
already?
I did pour.
Okay. Let me open.
I poured when I was chatting.
You do the honors.
Cheers to episode 22 and our fourth book, A Court of Frost and Starlight. Cheers.
Woo! Cheers. I can't believe you never heard of prickly pear. You need to try it. It's tequila.
Oh, it's the tequila one?
Mm-hmm.
I
It's
will
good.
need to try that then.
All right, now let's get started with the good stuff and break down ACOFAS Part 1. Over to you, Meg. Please summarize the set of chapters for us.
All right, just like the last three books, we're going to be doing small little quick bites of each chapter before we talk about it a little bit further in the plot section. Here we
Yes.
go. Chapter 1. The snow has started to fall in this holiday special book, even though I feel like it will give us more information than we think. Feyre starts us off catching us up on what has been going on since the war has ended. Feyre and Rhys have been very, very busy, and it sounds like they may be outgrowing their townhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 2. Our second chapter brings us a Rhys POV. He is up in the Illyrian Mountains assisting Cassian with Lord Devlin because, not shockingly, they are not following orders about the girls' training for the millionth time. We also learn there is big discontent brewing with the Illyrians since the war was over. Rhys has a little heart to heart with Cassian, and they are all prepping for the winter solstice.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 3. We get our first ever Cassian POV. He
Yes.
is feeling a little angsty after this morning's conversation in the camp. We learn more about the Illyrian blood right and the camp where Cassian grew up. It is now abandoned after what Cassian did to it. Ouch, but honestly, well deserved.
Agreed.
Chapter 4. We are back with our gal Feyre, and she is walking us through the rainbow in Valoris, looking at the shops and contemplating what she is going to buy everyone for Solstice. She bumps into a fairy named Racina who offers for Feyre to join her at her studio to paint. Feyre does a little shopping with Mor before Mora tells her that they would be heading to the Court of Nightmares tonight. Chapter 5. Feyre is lounging and relaxing before having to get ready for the Human City. Rhys returns home from his all-day meetings, and Feyre fusses over him to get some food in his system. Rhys and Feyre almost have a steamy moment, but they are interrupted. They need to put their game faces on and head to one of their least favorite places in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 6. We have our first ever Morrigan POV, and I think it's
Woo.
interesting that it says Morrigan and not more.
Yeah.
We are in the Court of Nightmares for this POV, though we did not get much information about the conversations happening around her because she keeps returning to the past when she was lying alone and injured in the Autumn Court woods. It is awful to see her suffer to this day with this trauma that happened to her, but she keeps her head held high, even if she didn't have any snarky comebacks for Kier and Eris this go around.
Yeah, that was a sad one.
Chapter 7. Circling back to Reason's POV, he was unable to sleep after a tip Eris had given him about Tamlin. Tamlin is not enforcing his borders as he should be, and so now Reese is going to have to pay him a little visit. Azriel gives him more unsettling news about the discontent with the Illyrians, and they talk about the Queens and Braxis. Even with the war over, this group is just as busy, if not busier, with the aftermath of everything.
Yeah, I would say they're busier.
Chapter 8. Back in the Illyrian Mountains with Cassian, he is purchasing winter coats and gloves for the families who need it most to try and squash some of the discontent up there. This is a bad storm that is brewing, and he didn't just mean the snow.
Ooh.
Chapter 9. Feyre Darling is supposed to be going off to paint with Racina and the other Fae and Valoris at Racina's studio, but Feyre is having second thoughts. She instead winnows into an abandoned studio in the Rainbow and starts setting up shop there to paint.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 10. Feyre needed to not paint in front of other people for this painting. She had one very important painting she needed to do so she could continue her healing process, and we will talk about that later.
Yes, we will.
Chapter 11. We are back in the spring court. Yikes. Literally cannot get away from this place in any book. But this time we are back here with Reese and not Feyre Darling. Tamlin is a huge depressed mess and he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have anyone to enforce his borders and he will not accept help from the Night Court. So we leave him there just as frustrated as we always do.
Yep.
Chapter 12. This chapter from Feyre's POV is how I want all the chapters to be in this book. We actually get to see them decorating for the holiday, being together as a family, and going back to their typical banter. Lots to say in this chapter, but at the end, we're on our way to see one lady that's been talked about but not seen up until this point, Nesta.
Yep. That Nesta.
Chapter 13. Nesta, oh Nesta. Our girl is basically back to her old ways, except she's drinking and isolating herself from everyone, even Elaine. So many
Mm-hmm.
thoughts and emotions on this, but hopefully someone will be able to get into her thick, thick wall of trauma and hurt before things really go downhill. And our last chapter in this episode, chapter 14, it is from our man, Reese. He is on a walk with Moore, catching up on everything in Valoris and what needs to be done. He warns her about Care potentially coming in the spring, and he offers her a new job opportunity after the holiday. Can't wait to see what comes next.
Yes. I can't believe we're already halfway done and we just started. So
That's
small compared to the other books.
that's what's so great about novellas is
Yeah.
they're quick, but there's still a lot to say.
Oh, yes.
I just forgot that all this information gets dumped on us in this book. It's actually like super important. And I'm
I
just like, oh,
know.
it's a throwaway novel.
No, I know. And we have 20 pages of notes, which is more than we've had in the last maybe 3 or 4 episodes. So we definitely have a lot to talk about.
We definitely do. So I'm going to let you jump right into it and catch us up on our characters.
Yes, I'm going to start the character section with Feyre. She is reminiscing about how she used to dread the first snow and had lived in terror of long, brutal winters. She was thankful, though, that 2 years ago, a long, brutal winter made her depressed enough to kill a wolf that led her to the life she now lives and her happiness. Can you believe that was 2 years?
2 years.
2 years.
Chase.
I feel like it should be like 5 at least for everything that's happened. No wonder these
Yes.
people are so traumatized.
It was yesterday.
Literally, it's crazy. Feyre was still haunted by her dreams, including new ones about Rhys dying and still feeling the hollowness in her chest when she could no longer feel the bond. She also had nightmares about Nesta, leaning over a wounded Cassian, the two of them preparing to die together against the king of Hybern. Her father's neck being snapped, and Striga standing before the king as he snapped her neck and threw her to the Naga. Those nightmares are getting brutal.
She had so many to begin with. Let's
I
just add
know.
more and more traumatic things to the list.
Literally, how does she sleep at night?
Resand and
Tires
his
her ass
good
out. Yeah.
D.
He puts her to bed.
Yeah.
Feyre is shopping in the Rainbow for gifts for each of her family members. As High Lady, Feyre hosts weekly open audiences with Rhys at the House of Wind. The requests range from the small Phaelite lamppost that was broken to complicated, could we please stop importing goods from other courts because it's impacting local artisans' problems? Which I thought was an interesting fact. I mean, it's good to be aware of all things going on, even small lampposts being out shows that they care.
They definitely do. They probably care way too much.
Yeah. And last but not least, Feyre is back on her painting game and paints for hours straight into the night.
She is. She is. I
Yes,
like
she
that though
is.
for her. I'm
I
glad
know.
that she's doing that.
Yeah, I agree. Rhys starts off this book by visiting Devlin's Illyrian war camp. He's been visiting their war allies these months to solidify their relationships, build trade, and keep tabs on their post-wall intentions. When Feyre's own work allowed it, she often joined him. Rhys was fiending for some sexy time with Feyre. They were even
Mhm.
banging in midair.
You gotta do what you gotta do, Amanda.
You gotta do it. Yep. Rhys wanted the whole crew home for winter solstice, which means Cassian will have to leave the Illyrian war camp to celebrate with them. This solstice was also Feyre's 21st birthday, although this kind of bothered Rhys because it was a reminder that she was so young compared to him. We learn from this scene that Rhys's mother was 18 and his father was 900. Wild when you actually think about that.
Yes.
But
Only in a fantasy book is this acceptable. I'm
yeah.
like, oh my God, how romantic. She's 19 and he's 500. So cute. Love it.
Literally, it's crazy. But he also knows that she was miserable, his mother. Cassian reminds him that Feyre is not his mother and he is not his father. Cassian even admits to being jealous of their bond at times, at their happiness. Of course, Rhys doesn't believe their happiness is deserved. Rhys gave Feyre a piece of paper that had a list of charities that he donated to around solstice time every year, from aiding the poor, sick, and elderly to grants for younger mothers to start their own businesses. Just love this guy.
He's great.
He's great. Elaine had been busy preparing the gardens for winter. She still occupied a bedroom in the townhouse. She was too polite to send Lucian away when he wanted to help. She just ignored him or barely spoke to him until he got the hint and left. Elaine's recovery was ongoing. She has her good days and she has her bad days.
I just cannot with the Elaine and Lucian
I
stuff. And
know.
I honestly don't think it's going to get fixed until she potentially gets a point of view book from like
Yeah.
her own book.
Yeah, I agree. We need an Elaine book.
Yeah, clearly to let Lucian be free
Yeah.
or to give
Yeah.
Lucian a happy ending. Either way, like this
Literally.
in between is nonsense
Yeah.
at this point.
I know. It's crazy. Nuella and Ceridwen, our favorite little maids, are back doing their duties in the house. But at
Mhm.
first, Ceridwen was nowhere to be found. And why does
Hmm.
she mention that? I just felt like that needed to be said because, she doesn't do anything not purposely.
Yeah,
So there's
for
a reason
sure.
why she's missing in action at first, but hopefully we'll figure that out later.
Yeah, maybe a task for Asriel? I don't know.
Ooh, maybe.
He
Yeah.
trained them.
Yeah, he did train them. That's right. Interesting. Lucian had taken up residence in an elegant apartment down by the river the day after he returned from the battlefields and the spring court. Feyre hadn't asked Lucian any questions about that visit to Tamlin, and Lucian hadn't explained the black eye and cut lip either. He found ways to keep busy, often gone for days or weeks at a time. Lucian was invited by Tamlin to spend the winter solstice in the spring court, and Rhys planned to visit after Eris's warning, which
Poor
I think is so
Lucian.
funny. All I could think about was when I was reading about Lucian visiting Tamlin for winter solstice was you saying, I don't think they ever talk again. And I was like, how did she think that? When they literally spend winter solstice together.
In my head, Lucian never talks to Tamlin ever again because Lucian is so much better than that. So much better than
Yeah,
that. And like, look at him. He got a freaking black eye and a cut
I
lip, and
know.
he's still going there for winter solstice. It's ridiculous.
I know.
Poor Lucian, between Elaine giving him shit, well, not really shit, just ignoring him like he doesn't exist,
Yeah,
and
literally.
Tamlin being Tamlin to him. This poor guy, he doesn't deserve any of
I
this.
know, and he's still hunting for food for them when Reese goes to visit, like, he's nowhere to be found. It's just crazy. He just loves Tamlin or loves to be his little bitch, I guess.
I don't
We'll
know.
see.
Poor Lucian. I
I
can't
know.
with he needs a if he doesn't get a happy ending, I swear to God,
I know. He needs a happy ending.
I will be devastated.
I feel like it's not gonna be Elaine, though. My bones are telling me that.
Yeah, I feel like something drastic would have to happen for it to be Elaine.
Yeah. And I kinda want it to be Azriel and Elaine. I'm not gonna lie.
Listen, there's a lot of controversy over all this, so we'll
Well,
have to keep reading and then we can talk about it for in our
okay.
final thoughts after Silver Flame.
Oh shit. Okay. Nesta had chosen to live in her own home across the city, but Feyre doesn't seem too happy about that. Nesta refused to interact with any of them, except for a few brief visits with Feyre every month. Reese was determined to fix that, and Cassian was still worried about her. Nesta is Nesta, though. She does what she wants, even if it kills her sister. Reese had offered her a job after job, and she refuses them all, but she will be over during the solstice, they think, and forced
Hopefully.
to interact with them.
Yeah.
Nesta's apartment was the only thing relatively close to a slum in the city of Valaris. The building was older than Reese and in dire need of repairs. Nesta tells Elaine that she doesn't want to come to Solstice. She also says she doesn't want to come to anything ever again. Screams trauma right there.
Yeah.
And we find out that Nesta went on alone and made companions as the night progressed, and every now and then one of them would come home with her. Nesta also lost a ton of weight, and she wanted nothing to do with either of her sisters or anyone else for that matter. Just strangers for one night.
There's just so much to say.
I know. Cassian was with Reese and getting into it with Devlin. Cassian and Devlin were fighting about the usual. Devlin was refusing the females time to train as he believed they should be doing chores to prepare for the solstice for the men. The Illyrians also
Mhm.
believed that Reese and Cassian marched them south as revenge for their own treatment as children. They think they specifically stationed some of the males in the front line as payback. It's just wild to me that they think this when they're even trying to train the females for their own benefit.
Right.
But
Yeah. It makes
whatever.
no sense. They're just
Brainwashed.
backwards,
Yeah.
ass backwards.
Yeah. Cassian traveled to the peak where he was raised before traveling to Devlin's camp. Only cinders and debris remained. He made sure of it when those who had been responsible for his mother's suffering and torment had been dealt with. No one had wanted to remain there a moment longer. His purpose for visiting this peak was the unmarked, unknown grave in the past where he mourned his mother. So sad.
It is so
This is
sad.
why we need more Cassian POVs, though. We learned so much about him.
I know. Yeah, you're right.
Including this cute little fact about Cassian, we learn that he has named many of Nessa's poses, ranging from "I will eat your eyes for breakfast" to "I don't want Cassian to know I'm reading smut."
I know. Wasn't there one about like this is my I will slay my enemies pose too?
Yeah. Yeah. He's so funny. Although they don't really talk, so I'm not sure how he's naming these poses, but you know, we'll just go with
Yeah. He's
it.
just making it up.
Yeah. He's envisioning her in her head and just thinking about what she would be doing or saying.
Mhm.
Asriel, we learn, doesn't actually winnow. We don't know how
No.
he does it, but he moves through the world without technically winnowing through shadows.
I know. I was so shocked by this because when it's Feyre's point of view, you just hear, "Oh, Azrael's going to winnow
Winnowing,
this
yeah.
person, etc." But through Cassian's point of view, he says that Azrael's not actually winnowing, and obviously he knows Azrael a little bit better. I even
Right.
had to reach out to my friend Amy, who's apparently our expert on the side that we phone a friend for,
Yeah.
and she's like, "Oh my gosh, yeah." She's like, "I didn't realize that either until you sent me that." I said I like highlighted it. I'm like
Yeah.
taking pictures of it, sending it over to her. I'm like, "What is going on with Azrael?"
That's crazy. I hope we learn more about that, but it must be something to do with the shadows.
Mhm.
But
But even where did those come from?
I
Because even
know.
Reese makes a point to say that they
Yeah.
don't know where this shadow singer ability came from.
Yeah. Interesting.
I know.
Racina is the Fae that Feyre meets while shopping in the Rainbow. She's one of the artists who uses the studio space and offers Feyre to be her guide or even some company while she's in the Rainbow. She also invites Feyre to join her group who paints together at her studio one night a week. Feyre considered joining Racina and her group to paint, but she got cold feet and decided she wasn't ready to go paint in front of others. Instead, she winnowed into the boarded up gallery to paint peacefully alone.
What a loner.
What a loner. Varian, we learn, will be joining them for winter solstice, so that will be fun to watch him and Amryn react
Yeah, apparently he's
together.
been sneaking in and out of Alaris these days.
Little sneaky sneaky. Eris tells the crew in the Hewn City that it is up to Tamlin who gets to expand into the human lands as his territory borders them. Interesting. This piques Reese's interest.
Yeah, not good. Not
Not
good
good
at
at
all.
all. Yeah. Moore has remained in contact with the Lady of the Winter Court, her bestie.
Mhm.
Moore is having an intense flashback of being thrown to the Autumn Court with a nailed note to her chest,
Mhm.
which was really intense to read. I'm not going to lie.
I know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think
I
there's still
know.
so much more we don't know about that day. And I kind of get why Eris did what he did, even though it's so cruel. Is he says if we touch her, she's ours to take care of.
Yeah.
And he knew that she didn't want to stay in the Autumn Court.
Yeah. Did you think the someone who was saying they couldn't leave her there was Lucian? I was
Oh,
thinking it was Lucian the whole time.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
Could be.
I meant to ask you that, but we could talk about it later
Yeah, I'll have
in
to
the
read
plot.
back again.
Yeah.
Yeah. To read back and I'll get back to you later in the episode.
Reese and Moore finally talk after basically avoiding each other since the war. There was unfinished business there because she was still hurt that Reese chose to work with Eris and Care and gave Care access to Valeris.
Mhm.
So they're making up.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a Christmas special. Everybody's got to be happy.
It's an info dump
Everyone
Christmas
except,
special.
yeah, everyone except Nesta. Poor Nesta.
And Tamlin.
And Tamlin. That's true. Amryn is still adjusting to being high fae. She believes that blood tastes better and is annoyed of the inconvenience it is to need to find a place to relieve herself everywhere she goes.
That was honestly the funniest thing to read.
I know.
I was reading this book and I was like, did I read this book? I did.
Megan was like, I need to read Silver Flames. Let me just blink and this book will be over.
I remember some bits
Yeah.
from just these chapters. I remember Feyre getting invited to go paint.
Yeah.
I remember Feyre complaining about the space in the townhouse. I remember like Nesta being Nesta.
Yeah.
That's it, I think, so far.
So this is Megan's first time reading this book all over again. Jurian had somehow stepped into the lead in the human lands using Grayson's family estate as his seat of command, which I think will actually be helpful for them.
Yeah, I'm also just really surprised that they're allowing him to kind of take over their estate and rule from there. I just thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, like do they know the history? They must know
Or
the history if they think he's like this
yeah.
big all amazing person that's going to save them.
Yeah, I guess. I just like found it interesting that they would give up control of their
Yeah.
lands to
Yeah.
Jurian, even if he had experience. I just thought, with this big bad estate that they have, I thought that it was like interesting that the Graysons would give up control.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But I think too, he probably convinced them that he has experience with these Fae, obviously, for
Yeah.
hundreds of years, and the walls
Yeah.
down there probably scared shit at this point.
Yeah.
So I can see both sides for sure. Vasa has also stayed with Grayson and Jurian, but her freedom would end eventually. She would have to return to the lake because the curse has not been broken.
Nope, they tried.
They tried. Cassian meets Emery, who is the daughter of Proteus, one of the warriors who did not come home from the war. She now runs her father's shop, and Cassian notices her wings have been clipped and she will never fly again.
Mm-hmm.
Poor Emery.
I didn't realize we met Emery in this book either.
Oh,
I
so she's
remember
important.
I remember that scene. Obviously, I just thought it was not
Were
in
you
this book.
drunk when you read this book?
Maybe.
What was going on in your life when you read this book, Megan? You were distracted.
Clearly. I don't know. We'll have to look back at a later date.
Yes. Last but not least for the character section, we have poor little depressed Tamlin. Reese
Yeah.
realizes during their visit that Tamlin didn't have any shields around the house. None to prevent anyone from winnowing in, to guard against enemies, appearing in his bedroom, and slitting his throat. It was almost as if he was waiting for someone to do it. He didn't
Dang.
even fight Reese back when Reese was trying to taunt him and try to get a rile out of him, like ruse him up a little bit. And he was like, get out, get out.
I think he said it meaner than that.
Well, yeah, he was like, and looking
Get out
down.
of here! Get out of my house!
Get out. Yeah.
I mean, he answered the door. He probably knew it was on the other end. He didn't have to answer the door, but he did because he's probably so desperate for company. He's like, come on in, Reese.
Come on in.
I
Yeah.
literally hate you, but come on in.
Crazy. All right, on to world building. We have a little section I like to call Valeris / post-war efforts.
There's a little section I like to call.
Our crew is back in Valeris, and the first snow of winter has begun. Plenty of work remains for Reese, Feyre, and the crew for the foreseeable future. Rebuilding Valeris after the attack from Hybern being one of the many monumental tasks. Other tasks included were required doing as well, both in Valeris and beyond it. The Illyrian Mountains and the Hewn City and the entire Night Court, really. There was also other courts in Prythian and the new emerging world beyond. So they have their plate full.
They do. Mm-hmm.
There are more Illyrian clans than expected where discontent is spreading. Asriel tells Reese of 2 females in one clan that were spewing poison about the war. One was a widow and one was a mother to a soldier. So obviously this is out of trauma from losing someone important to them, but you don't know how powerful 2 people can be. Start talking and the flame just continues to go. So definitely a problem for them.
Yeah, I mean, I get why these women may think what they're spewing, but at the same time, like Reese says in another chapter, the Illyrians are the biggest army that
Yeah.
Prythian has. Of course, they're going to be the biggest force that you're going to see in a battle is because
Yeah.
they're the largest army that that area has, and that is what they literally trained for. That's what they were
Yeah.
born for. That's what they do every day, is train for things like this. So when it comes up, they're prepared to go. And but of course, there's going to be casualties
Of
at the
course,
end of the
yeah.
day.
Yeah,
But
war is war. There's bloodshed no matter what.
yeah.
There's going to be losses no matter what. And if you're literally training every single day of your life for centuries,
Mhm.
war is inevitable.
I think that if Cassian even tried to not put them on the front lines, they would be pissed.
Yeah.
Pissed because they
Yeah.
would see it as an insult. So
Yeah.
they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. And I think Reese knows this at the end of the
Yeah,
day. Like, no
exactly.
matter what they did, these people were going to have a problem with them because it's them who are the rulers.
Exactly, yeah. The human queens have not returned to their own territories. They linger in the joint palace of theirs. Hybern's general population is also not too thrilled that they have lost this war. With the wall gone, who knows what other territories might make a grab for human lands.
Mm-hmm.
Hence why Reese is bitching at Tamlin to step up and fucking block people from going
Do
into the human.
something. Do
Yeah,
something, Tamlin. It's the same. It's this
I know.
tale as old as time.
Yeah, literally. Braxis was also still missing.
Good for
Definitely
him.
scary.
I'm happy for him. He's just exploring the world.
Yeah, he's like, fuck a window. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Winter solstice is a special holiday in the Night Court as well, not just winter and day and spring. They love it dearly. It's intimate, warm, and lovely. Presents and music and food, sometimes feasting under the starlight. The opposite of the enormous wild days long party Feyre had been subjected to last year. There is a ceremony, but none of them go. It's more for those who wish to honor the light's rebirth, usually by spending the entire night sitting in absolute darkness. Sounds so fun.
So fun.
Every winter solstice, the crew visits the Court of Nightmares to wish them well, and we learn that Eris will be in attendance this year. We get some more info about the Illyrian mountains and war camps from Cassian's point of view, where
Mhm.
we learn that there are scary creatures prowling between the peaks of the Illyrian mountains. Some of them hunting on the winds, some crawling out from deep caverns in the rock itself. Wouldn't want to be out there by myself at night.
Absolutely not.
Ramiel is a sacred mountain. It was the heart of not only Illyria, but the entirety of the Night Court. None were permitted on its rocky slopes except for the Illyrians, and only once a year during the Blood Rite. All novices competed with wings bound, no siphons, a spell restraining all magic, and no supplies beyond the clothes on their backs. The goal was to make it to the summit of the mountains by the end of the week and touched the stone, the onyx monolith. The obstacles included the distance, the natural traps, and each other. Old feuds were played out and new ones were born. Scores were definitely settled. There was grumbling inside the Illyrian war camps. They barely survived the war and didn't need a civil war. Not when so many unknowns were gathering outside their borders.
Mhm.
They didn't know who put the stone on top of the peak. Legend said it had existed before the Night Court formed, before the Illyrians migrated there, before humans had even walked the earth.
That's old.
That's old. That stone is probably just as old as the cauldron.
Probably.
We learn an interesting fact about the Fae people, which I have to mention. In place of monthly periods was a biannual week of stomach shredding agony. Even Maja could do little for the pain short of rendering them unconscious. I'm jealous because only twice a year instead of 12?
I guess I know how bad my periods are, like monthly, is
Yeah.
sounds like this.
Yeah.
So I guess if I only had to do it twice a year, I don't know, but it just sounds so bad because it's not like that for me every month. But when I
Yeah.
do get it, like maybe I am high fae or something because
You
my
are
bad
high
ones are
fae.
only like twice a year are bad, and the other times they're not bad.
Yeah.
So I must
You
be
are a
fae.
bad girl.
I wish.
Yeah, you definitely are.
Where are my wings?
The spring court was looking awful these days. The pink roses that had once climbed the pale stone walls of the sweeping manor house were nothing but tangled webs of thorns. The fountains had gone dry, the hedges untrimmed and shapeless. The house itself had looked better the day after Amarantha's cronies had trashed it. That's how bad Tamlin is doing right now.
You know what that says to me, Amanda?
What?
It says to me that a little girl named Elaine needs to come in there and fix it all up.
Oh my god, yup. Those pink roses will be pinker than ever.
Those bushes will have shape.
Yeah. Until then, though, he lives in a shithole
Yes.
that Reese lets him know he is very deserving of. And last but not least, in our world building section, probably the smallest fast magic section yet. But here
Yeah.
we go with fast magic. Ooh,
Ooh,
ooh, ooh,
ooh,
ooh,
ooh.
fast
Magic.
magic.
Ooh, ooh, ooh,
Here we go. Reese and Feyre talk several times through their bond. We have some basic winnowing and flying. Reese cloaks Feyre and him so they could literally bang flying through the air without anyone seeing.
I'm glad I waited to take a sip after for that one.
Feyre uses her flame to warm up the boarded up gallery space to paint. Reese uses his powers to find Nesta for Feyre. And Reese slid a sound barrier around Feyre and Nesta in the tavern so that no one could hear them speak. And that's all we have for fast magic today.
Wow.
And world building.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
It's more of a character update book than world building, I feel like.
yeah, exactly. I agree. We did learn a little bit about the Illyrian Mountains from Cassian. We get updates for the post-war dealings going on. So there was a little bit of world building, but definitely the smallest fast magic section. Not much magic happening.
Yeah.
But Megan, I'll let you take us back to chapter 1 so we can talk about the plot and some notable lines and assumed foreshadowing.
Whoa. Okay. Well, before we do that, I'm going to cheers you again to episode
Yes.
22 and our
Woo!
fourth book. So crazy.
Fourth book. How are we on book 4?
I honestly have no idea.
Wild.
I know. All right. Chapter 1. The snow in winter has come to Valoris. It is almost time for the winter solstice, and we are starting A Court of Frost and Starlight with a Feyre point of view, obviously.
Obviously.
Feyre woke up alone in bed. She had not heard Rhys leave early that morning. She didn't even know where he was. Strange.
Mm.
They both had been so busy working themselves to exhaustion since the war had ended. Feyre is reflecting on when she dreaded winters. Like Amanda said earlier, she was grateful for the winter 2 years ago when she killed the wolf and started her life in Prythian. Feyre sent a message to Rhys down the bond asking him where he was, but from the blackness she felt on their bond, she noted that he was most likely not even in Valaris. They had been working with their war allies and different initiatives, and she sometimes joined him when her work allowed it. So they are busy, busy bees. Not that they've never
Yes.
been not busy, but they are busier than ever. They don't even have time to sleep or talk or catch up with each other at this point.
Yeah, she literally woke up and had no idea where Reese was. That's how busy they are.
Yeah, they need a calendar set up for,
Yeah,
for their
literally.
schedules. With winter solstice approaching, she reminds us as the readers it has now been a year since Reese had interrupted her wedding to Tam Tam, which is so crazy. That was only a year ago.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The time in these books just doesn't make sense in my head. She talks about her love for Reese, how they both worked so hard for them to be together that they had bled for it, and Reese had even died for it. The image of his death still woke her from sleep or brought her out of being present during conversations or in the moment during everyday activities. Reese knew why she sometimes held him a little tighter, just like how she knew when he sometimes blinked and rubbed at his chest when he looked at them to make sure that they were real to ease the ache in his chest. Just so
Aw.
sad. I
But they
wouldn't
don't make any time for each other.
I know. I wouldn't let him go. I'd be like, "We're attached at the hip. My hand is now your
Yeah,
hand, so I'm coming with
yeah.
you."
She must have some kind of scary thought in her head every time she can't get in touch with him. I would.
Yeah, me too. Nuala is telling Feyre that the Night Court does make a big deal out of the winter solstice, but like Amanda said earlier, it's mostly just presents and food, sometimes feasts, and not these holy ceremonies that she would have to sit through like she did with Ianthe.
Yeah, for days at a time. Like, that's crazy.
Too crazy. Feyre notes that she would have to buy her family presents because she didn't do that last year with the wedding and everything going on. Plus, she wasn't allowed to leave the house. Back in the human worlds, they don't celebrate these holidays. So she's never had to purchase a gift for anyone before.
Yeah. This is fun for her.
Yeah, I think it would be fun. She doesn't really, she
Well,
seems a
yeah.
little flustered by it, but I think it's fun.
I mean, you have all the money in the world. How crazy could it be? You can literally buy them anything you want.
Yeah. Feyre looks fondly at her ring from Reese that she won from herself from the Weaver, R.I.P.
Oh.
Feyre during this section in chapter 1 is just basically catching us up on everything that has happened during the war. And I'm not going to repeat things that Amanda has already said. So that's why I'm just kind of skipping over those things right now.
Refer back to our world building section if you
Yes.
missed it.
Yes. Feyre is noting that her and Reese's room, even though it was a decent size, they were outgrowing it together. Really, it seemed like they were outgrowing the whole townhouse. Elaine, as Amanda said, is still occupying one of the rooms, but Nesta chose an apartment across the city that she didn't even want to think about. Lucian had found his own place in a nicer, more luxurious part of Loris, and I think we should touch base on Lucian here for a second because Lucian and Elaine are driving me nuts. And I know we talked about it a little bit already, but I just feel so bad for the guy that he
I know.
literally moved to Valaris to the Night Court for Elaine, who told him to come back to Valaris at the end of ACOWAR. And
I
she is
know.
not even willing to have a conversation with him. That's what I just don't understand. You don't
Yeah.
need to jump the guy's bones or be in a full on relationship with him at the moment or whatever, but you could at least have a conversation with him and act kindly towards him since she's
Yeah.
supposed to be the kindest sister.
I know. It's true. But also, now we know why he's running back to Tamlin. Misery loves company, and he is miserable.
Yeah, I would be too, though, if I was Lucia.
Yeah.
My mate wants nothing
Yeah.
to do with me, and for what reason? Yes, Elaine did point out in Act War, you sold us out to Highburn. This is why I am the way that I am. So that may be why she's still not speaking to him because she blames him for losing Lord Grayson and her becoming a High Fae and her human life being
Yeah.
over. So there might be some resentment
Seems
there
about right.
that she's not voicing. But at the same time, I think I would at least hear Lucian out or at least try to maybe I don't know, I guess you don't have to, but
Yeah, but I feel like they were at first. She was giving him chances to even just talk to her. So it is very strange that she just cuts it off completely. Like, she's like, "You do not exist. You can talk to me, and I'm going to look at you like I'm looking through you," which
yeah.
has to make you feel like shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was no point of saying, well, I know it was with Feyre elbowing her in the ribs, but she didn't have to say, come back to Valaris.
No. She
Yeah.
could have just been like, "Bye. See you, never."
Yeah. Yeah. The house is cramped. Even with those two gone, when Moore and Cassian and Azriel slept over, it was too much. Too much
Yeah.
for the townhouse. She loves the House of Wind too, but it's too formal. The townhouse was her home and she loved it so much, but I feel like there's more coming.
Yeah. They need a new house. Just her and Reese.
Yeah. Feyre sat down at her desk that she shared with Reese to respond and sort through letters she had been putting off from other kingdoms, priestesses, humans, etc. She says that she was Feyre Cursebreaker, defender of the rainbow, and now the desk. Which is just such an awful thing. You go from all these action packed jobs to now you have to write correspondence, but at least she can read them now.
I know. Thank God she learned how to read
Yeah.
and write, for that matter.
True. Faber was looking through their court budget to see if she could take any time off to spend with her mate, even though they were filthy rich. I don't know why you need to look through the budget. Just book something. I don't know how you book a
Yeah.
vacation in this world, but just go. They deserve it at this point. It's crazy how they're still so. I need to be the only two people in this whole world to be figuring out what's going on with the humans. Like, let
Yeah.
someone
But I
else
feel
help
like
out.
yeah, I feel like it's totally because they just still don't believe that they deserve happiness. Like
Yeah.
no good deed will ever be enough for them to believe that they deserve happiness.
Right. Feyre had been spending time with different charities in Valaris, helping out after the war and the city being attacked, but they sent her home for the solstice and told her to spend time with her family and mate and kicked her out.
Yep.
Rhys finally responded that he was with Cassian at an Illyrian camp of Lord Devlin's. Feyre teases him about being an Illyrian baby, but he tells her he will give her a full report later.
I love their banter.
I know. Chapter 2. We get a Rhysand point of view. Oh,
Mhm.
also, let's just put a little star here that the Feyre and Rhysand point of views are from the first person, and
Yes.
the Cassian and Morgan point of views that we've had have been in third person.
Yeah, what could that
We don't
mean?
know why, but just want to point it out. If anyone knows why, shoot us a
Yeah.
DM.
Yeah, please, I need to know. That would be great.
Cassian had asked Reese to be here up at the camp today because Cassian was having a problem with the lords again about the females not being able to train. There was an honor in the work that the females were doing, but it was expected of all of them to do it. And if they didn't do it, that they would be punished. And this is what they were trying to change. Cassian
Mhm.
doesn't want the girls to be taken away from the training to go prep for solstice. He says that they can train for 2 hours and then they can go help. Devlin looks to Rhysand and wants to know, is this an order? Rhys says if Cassian says it is, then it is. Devlin
Yeah,
says fine, but they can train for an hour.
this guy.
He
He just
no,
doesn't get it, this
no.
motherfucker.
Reason steps in and says that the girls will train for an hour and a half and then they can go help, along with the boys, to make sure that everything is ready for the solstice. The boys have two hands, Cassian says, but Devlin tries to make them feel bad because a lot was lost for the Illyrians during the war. They took the brunt of all of the battles, and not all of them came back or came back with all of their body parts.
Well, that's what you fucking get for being Illyrian war people that train constantly. Like, I don't understand. Don't fucking train constantly for war if you don't wanna be in
I
war.
think he was just trying to say he wants this solstice to be a good one for them after everything that they sacrificed during the war, which I understand to.
Yeah, but don't make them feel bad about it, like
Yeah, no, I know. And everyone can help. It shouldn't just be a pressure on the woman to do everything.
Yeah, exactly.
And obviously, Cassian takes every death and injury to heart as he is the head of the Illyrian armies. So just by saying that is already a smack in the face to Cassian.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like they carelessly put them in war. They know that they're gonna lose people and they feel for them just like they would for their own, but
Mhm.
war is war. You're gonna have loss, and when you're the biggest army in
Mhm.
Prithian, you're probably gonna have the most loss.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Reese notes how he needs a holiday, so he is also thinking about this as well. How he just
Yeah.
wants time away with Feyre to just be together and not always having to be rushing. Reese tells the embarrassing story that Amanda told us earlier about how he was so desperate for Feyre as they were flying back home from the House of Wind that he almost flew into a roof when they were getting steamy in the air.
Woo! I'm sweating now.
Whew, that's a good sweat.
Yeah.
Reese and Cassian are now debriefing in his mother's old house that they have now taken on as their meeting place when they're in the Illyrian camps. Dissension between the Illyrian clans are brewing now with Solstice coming. It would allow for the talks to spread. So with everyone traveling and gathering kind of all together in like big groups that they know that this word is going to spread.
Mhm.
The talk is that Reese, Cassian, and Az sent the Illyrians to the front line as payback for how the Illyrians had treated them as children. Reese knows that this isn't good. They won't be able to kill their way out of this one, as they killed the Illyrians who had sided with Amarantha during her reign of terror. Cassian offers to stay up here to show face and help during the solstice, but Reese wants him home. He wants all of the inner circle in Valaris for the solstice.
Understandably.
Yes. We learned that Nesta and Cassian have not spoken at all since the war, which
Another one.
is crazy. They make, what is it, 10 steps forward and 10 steps back, basically, at this point.
Yeah.
Nesta has locked herself up in her apartment and only has a handful of visits with Feyre every month. Reese wants to fix this for Feyre. So Reese is like, I have this many things to do. I need to fix this. I need to fix this. I need to fix this. I need to
Yeah.
fix this. It's like, dude, you're one person.
Yeah. He needs to take a break.
Reese also reflects on how Elaine gave the killing blow to the King of Highburn with Truth Teller. So it's so funny
Still
how in
can't believe that.
ACOWAR, how they were kind of saying how Nesta killed the king and how she was the guest of honor, but really it is Elaine. Though I don't think Reese would ever give credit to Nesta. So he's for sure just going to credit Elaine for killing the King of Highburn,
Yeah.
which is another problem in itself.
Yeah, I feel like they just say that it's Nesta because she actually was the one that beheaded him.
Yeah.
And even got him in the position for Elaine to use Truth Teller, but without her, he would have killed them. So,
The Inner Circle boys had put off their hunting trip again, but Reese wanted to keep their winter solstice traditions intact. Devlin is not one of the rebels spreading these lies around the camps. He is one who does not tolerate it, so it will be harder for them to find this narrative of who's spreading it because they're going to be even more secretive because Lord Devlin is not going to put up with that shit.
right, yeah.
Cassian learns that Nesta will be at Solstice, well, supposedly, that Reese
Supposedly.
will make her behave for Feyre's sake. Reese has offered her job after job and she refuses them all. And Reese thinks that maybe Cassian could talk to her over Solstice, but Cassian knows that this will not go over well.
Yeah.
He's like, are you dumb? I can't talk to her. She's so scary.
He's seeing all the mean poses right now in his head.
Right? He's like the head of the Illyrian army and he's scared of Nesta Archeron.
Yeah. Yep. He's hiding behind his wings when it comes to her.
Reese wants a peaceful solstice for Feyre because it's also her birthday.
Woohoo! And she's gonna be 21.
Crazy. He still cannot believe that Feyre chose him and it was not a mating like his parents had. And this is when Cassian admits that he's jealous of the mating bond that Reese and Feyre have. And it's like the legends they learned about when they were younger. And this is the comment about Feyre only being 21 and his mom only being 18 to the dad's
Yeah.
900. And that is just So crazy. But Reese
Yeah.
still thinks sometimes that this mating bond is a cosmic joke and it will all be ripped away from him.
Yes, and here's my notable line for chapter 2, page 21. Cassian is saying, "You made it. We made it. You both endured enough that no one would blame you if you danced off into the sunset like Miriam and Draken and never bothered with anything else again. But you are bothering. You're both still working to make this peace last. Peace, Reese. We have peace and the true kind. Enjoy it. Enjoy each other. You paid the debt before it was ever a debt."
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then they have a manly man hug.
I can see it now like
Yeah.
a
We're like, oh, yeah, dude, yeah.
yeah, dude, yeah.
Reese wants Cassian to be happy too, and he says that he is working on it. And Reese feels like he needs to fix this too.
I'll add to the list, Reese.
Add to the list. Reese is going to leave to go back to Valoris, and Cassian says he will see him at Solstice.
Mhm.
Chapter 3. This is a chapter where Amanda went over a lot already, so bear with me. We'll just do the bones of it. Once Reese leaves, Cassian then takes to the skies because he is not ready to deal with Laura Devlin or anyone else in that camp. He starts flying to an abandoned camp where he was born. And this is when we get to see the mountain of Ramiel and we get the description of the blood right. Cassian says that he went back to his camp that is now abandoned to punish those who had hurt his mother, and when he was done, no one had wanted to stay in that camp. He still didn't know where they had buried his mother or if they had even buried her. They hadn't given him that information even when they were going to their deaths.
Fucked up.
I know, it's so crazy. Cassian seems to come back to this place when he is in his feels. Cassian had wanted to bury his mother back in Valoris where the people were kind and away from the people who had been so awful to her. I just can't even imagine that he shows back up to this camp when he's strong after, going through the blood right and his mother is dead, but they won't even tell him where she's buried or what they did with her body.
I know. That is so crazy. And now we know why it's all cinders and nobody literally survived that tormented or killed her.
Yeah. Yeah. They all deserve
Like,
it.
what did you think was gonna happen? He literally won the blood right. You thought he was just gonna roll over and be sad?
Right.
Like, come on, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
You're all idiots.
Hmm. This is why training the females in these Illyrian camps were so important to him, for his mother, for the people he loved so much, despite what they had done to him, his mother, for the hope that one day they could be better people.
So
I love
sad.
Cass.
And the women can defend themselves against these fucking
Yeah.
brutes.
Cassian starts to somewhat think about Nesta, but says he cannot think about her right now in this place. For the people he fought in the training ring did not walk out well when he was taking out his frustrations about Nesta. And looking around the camp was
Mhm.
another reminder of what he was capable of. He was due back home for solstice in 3 days, and he would make the most of it.
I love Cassian.
Yeah, he has his moments that he's on my shit list, but right now he's not, so.
Don't they all?
Yeah. Well, Cassian's currently on my shit list, so that's why.
Oh, shit. Can't wait to find out why.
Chapter 4, Feyre's POV. Back to our girl Feyre. Feyre is wandering through the rainbow. She is reflecting on when she was here defending the people in the rainbow. We also get to hear how she has been meeting with petitioners at the House of Wind with Reese, how she is finding her own and helping respond to these letters. The fairy that was defending the shop with Faye inside is now near her, and she tells Feyre that one of the families made it out okay and the other artists did not have such a happy ending.
And here is one of my notable lines for chapter 4. I believe it is foreshadowing, and I'll explain why in a second. But page 36, the Fae that Feyre meets in the rainbow tells her that the boarded up storefront was for sale. I believe this is foreshadowing that Feyre will get this as a gift for her birthday / solstice.
That's definitely some good foreshadowing.
And there'll be more evidence as we go on. that I will be gladly pointing out.
Feyre says to Rosina, "Well, I'm not really in the market. I'm not sure why you would think that I would want to shop like this." But they've all heard the rumors that
Mhm.
Feyre is an artist and she would probably get great use out of this space. This is when they do their formal
Mhm.
introductions to each other, and we learn that the Fae's name is Rosina, and she tells Feyre any and all doors would be open to her for being one of them.
Yes, and here's my second notable line for chapter 4, page 38. Racina says, "We keep away to let you have your privacy, but don't think for one moment that there isn't a single one of us who doesn't know and remember, who isn't grateful that you came here and fought for us." That must make her feel so special
I
and so
know,
good.
just to be accepted by the people, not just for who she is,
Yeah.
but what she's done for them.
Yeah,
She
exactly.
then invites Feyre to come paint with her and a group of Fae that come and paint once a week at her studio. They paint anything that needs to be painted, which is great.
Yeah.
Feyre continues on her way through the shops looking for solstice gifts for others. Moore finds her looking at jewelry and says Amryn would love her forever if she got her that piece of jewelry. They contemplate if Varian would be joining Amryn for the celebrations. They hadn't made anything official, but he was coming to visit her in Valoris. After he had been around, Amryn was always smirking. Cute.
I mean, she is dealing with a lot, trying to be high fae and, deal with her bladder, but hopefully eventually they'll be
Yes.
official.
They found the perfect jewelry gift for Amryn, and Mora tells Feyre that she has everything she needs. When Feyre asks Mora what she wants for Solstice, Feyre tells Mora that Rhys says it's not always about the things you need, but the things you want, but you would never buy for yourself, which I love that.
I love that too. It's so good and so
Mhm.
true.
Moore has been spending time at Rita's, but she has not found anyone special. So that's still all up in the air. They contemplate a gift for Az, and they
Mm.
also comment on how Azriel had given Elaine truth teller during the final battle, which she did return. They talk about the Winter Court
Mhm.
celebrations, but the Winter Court keep their celebrations within their court, even though Moore was still in contact with Vivian, who may be a high very, very soon if she has any say about it. And finally, Moore tells Feyre that Moore, Feyre, and Reese will be going to the Court of Nightmares tonight to show face for the holiday and because Eris was going to be there and they wanted to see what he is getting up to. Chapter 5, we have a Feyre point of view again. Feyre is lounging in her bedroom before having to get ready to go to the Huon City. She was going to read her book instead of sorting through the letters on her desk, but Reese arrives back home. Apparently, he has not eaten all day, so she goes downstairs to make him a tray of food. She points out that she had to put the tray on the bed because there was nowhere else to put it in their room. The room is a mess.
That's how busy they are. The papers are stacking. Not the good kind.
Yes. Reese complained that Feyre was fussing over him, but she didn't like it when he was doing this to her when she had her cycle for the first time. This is when we learn that the female
Mm.
phase cycles are extremely painful and basically unbearable, but they only got them twice a year. She had warned her sisters about what would happen when they got their new phase cycles. They had been made for 6 months now at this point, which is also super crazy. Reese had helped
Yeah.
her through her cycle as Elaine would have let Lucian, who she would be too polite to turn away. So that is true. She would let Lucian help because she just wouldn't be able to be, can you please go away?
Yeah.
Feyre hoped Nesta would tell her when she got hers because she didn't think that Nesta would be able to make it through it alone.
Poor Nesta. I'm sure she will do it
Yeah.
alone, though.
Lucian had been hanging around even though Elaine just ignored him until he went away. Feyre didn't know how he could bear to deal with how Elaine treated him, which is so true. Reese wanted to
Yeah.
know if he thought Lucian would be joining them for solstice dinner.
We actually do know how he bears to deal with it. He runs to Tamlin. Misery loves company.
Reese admits that he cannot stomach to be around Lucian after what Lucian allowed to be done to Feyre after Under the Mountain. Reese also cannot stand to be around Nesta for what had happened to Feyre back before she was in Perithian, but he says that he can be around Elaine because Elaine is Elaine. Feyre does not like this and says that he needs to learn to be okay with Nesta because she is her sister. And if you're gonna blame
Yeah,
one,
he can hold a damn
but if you're gonna
grudge.
blame one, you have to blame the other, just like Feyre says. But Reese just is doubling down. He's like, but Elaine is Elaine.
Yeah. I mean, I get it though. She's like this bubbly little la 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 at first. Like she really was kind of delusional during the whole Pharaoh hunting for them phase in their lives.
I
So
guess, but she's still older than Feyre, and she still let Feyre go out into
yeah, it's
those
true.
woods to hunt alone.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true. Good point.
Feyre then tells Reese that she went to the Rainbow today and how she was invited to paint this week. She is not sure if she's ready to paint because she doesn't know what will emerge from her paintings. Reese teases Feyre about her birthday and how she will get two presents, that she was born on the longest night of the year and how she was meant to stand by his side and rule. Reese's thought for Feyre was how he loved and was turned on by her tackling him in the snow the first time she ever winnowed. just I can't with him. Reese said she drove him nuts those first few months because he didn't know if she would ever be his.
Yes, and this is my notable line for chapter 5, page 54. I wanted you, even under the mountain. I chalked it up to those horrible circumstances, but after we killed her, when I couldn't tell anyone how I felt about how truly bad things were, I still told you. I've always been able to talk to you. I think my heart knew you were mine long before I even realized it.
Well, duh.
We know that from the drawer, Feyre.
Just from her actions that we knew she wanted him long
Yeah.
before she realized
Oh,
it. She
yeah.
was just being so stubborn.
Yeah, definitely.
But Reese says that he loves her more than his life, his territory, and his crown. I want
Oh,
someone to say that to me.
me
I
too.
constantly say things like this when we read these books. I'm like, I just want to be loved like that.
It doesn't exist unless you find a fake man.
Where's Reese at?
I know.
Feyre and Reese are about to get a little steamy, a little more than just a little steamy, when Moore interrupts them to say that they needed to be leaving in 30 minutes, and Reese takes a long time to get ready, not Feyre.
Little pretty
He's
boy.
like, I have to go primp. But Reese also needed an ice bath before they were going to the Huon City. Feyre heard his
Mhm.
little Can you imagine Reese yelping? I'd be like,
I
we
can't.
got this in 15. Let's go, Feyre. Take your pants off.
Yeah.
No ice bath.
Come in the shower with me.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't think they have showers.
Or bath, whatever. That's romantic too.
That's romantic. Chapter 6 is the first Morgan POV, like I said earlier. We all know that Moore does not like being at the Court of Nightmare. She even feels like the holiday decorations there are tainted. She's like, I don't care what time of year this is, it is disgusting
Yeah.
under here.
Yeah.
They are now just meeting with Care and Eris as Feyre basically dismissed everybody else in the court that was gathering. Moore remembers how Care called Reese a half-breed monstrosity and a disgrace to the bloodline. He's more powerful than you'll ever be, Care.
Yep.
Moore is really struggling to listen and to pay attention to the conversations occurring around her. She is flashing back to the day her
Yeah.
family left her in the autumn court forest with the nails in her body. How Eris showed up and told no one to touch her because then they would be responsible for her, and left her there with the nails in her.
And this is my notable line for chapter 6, page 61. Someone behind him blurted, We can't just leave her to. We can and we will, Eris said simply, his pace unfaltering as he strode away. She chose to sully herself. Her family chose to deal with her like garbage. I have already told them my decision in this matter. A long pause, crueler than the rest. And I am not in the habit of fucking Illyrian leftovers. Ooh, but that's what I was talking about earlier. Someone behind him blurted. I'm like, who would be with him that would try and save her? The only person I could think of is Lucian.
Yeah, no, that's true. I feel like it must be Lucian or maybe just a random guard,
Yeah.
but it would make sense that it was Lucian. And like I said earlier, I get
Yeah.
why Eris did what he did, because if he did help her and then took her back, then she would be stuck there and she didn't want to be stuck there. So I don't know. It's cruel,
Yeah.
but
Care for her, but also
cruel to
Could
be
have been done a little
kind
bit
sort
better.
of thing.
Yeah.
What's that? Is
Yeah,
that the
yeah.
saying? Feyre brings more back to the present, but she is still not fully paying attention. Kara is saying he doesn't care about the public appearance because they are all such good friends after the war when they were commenting about how Eris was being so public in the Human City. Feyre tells
Mhm.
Eris that his father is absolutely not allowed to go into the human lands. And now they are concerned because Tam is not protecting the Spring Court borders. Moore wants to say something to them to put them in their place, but she cannot do it before they walk away from this meeting. Traumatized to this day.
Yeah. But also, what the fuck is Eris doing there? What is the schemey scheme going
Well,
on?
that was the part of the war bargain, right? That Erisser would agree to come and spend time with Care to have that connection in order for Care to fight in the war with his Darkbringers, and then also for them to help Eris when the time comes with Baron. But that's probably why he's there, is because it was a part of that
Yeah, that's
weird
true.
bargain
I
that
forgot
they all
about that.
made.
Yeah, and Eris is probably like, "Fuck this motherfucker, get me out of here."
Yeah, he's like, let me come and do my obligation visit and then I can leave.
Yeah.
But who knows? I think there's a lot about Eris that we don't know, and I want to know so badly.
Yeah. I can tell because you defend him a little bit.
I just think there's redeeming qualities about him, or just not enough that we
Yeah,
don't know to paint him as a complete villain at this point. Where we
right,
know enough
yeah.
about,
He's not barren.
right, yeah,
Yeah,
where we know enough about Baron to say he's a bad guy.
yeah. I agree.
Chapter 7, we bring it back to our boy Rhysand. He could not sleep after the tip from Eris about Tamlin, and so he flew to the House of Wind early that morning and is currently meeting with Asriel. Asriel is giving Rhys tips about what is going on with the Illyrians, and Rhys is not happy to see that the widespread discontent was in more areas than he ever imagined or calculated. This is not good.
Not good.
Az hates the Illyrians and always will, but Rhys says he would not be disbanding the biggest army in Prythian and kick them out of the mountains. It would really start the battle that they are currently trying to prevent.
Yeah, not to mention they don't have the manpower to go against the Illyrian
Right.
warband.
Who would do it? The Darkbringers?
Yeah.
They're not going to do
No,
that. And the people of Valoris that have
no.
no training? No.
Yeah, no.
They talk about how the human queens have not returned to their territories and they were all still at their joint palace, which is obviously concerning because what are they doing in there?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
they also don't know what other Fae territories might try to take a play at the human territories with the wall down. And they would need the Illyrians if it came to that. If they had to go and prevent other Fae territories from taking over human territory, you're going to need the
yeah,
Illyrians to be on your side.
exactly.
They are not going to tell Cassian, though, how big the discontent is until after the holidays are over. Azriel's like, Cassian's not going to like this. And Rhys is like, well, he already knows it's happening. It's just confirmation at this point.
Yeah,
They discuss Vasa and Jurian and the Grayson estate, and no one has been able to touch her curse, but she has not gone back to the lake yet, which is very interesting. They would send
mhm,
Lucian as their emissary to discuss with the humans how they would handle the queens. They would not be able to go as it would be seen as them being conquerors rather than allies to the humans.
mhm.
So the humans need to handle their own shit. But obviously, our Night
Yes.
Court gang has their hands in every pot. Do you think the other High Lords just say Helion, or
No.
they're just like wondering what's going on or what's going to happen? Or they're just like, la
I
la
feel
la,
like
it's done now. So I'm just going back to my court.
I feel like they just are waiting for orders. Not orders, but like they're waiting for the information. They probably know Reese is going to get it and Reese is going to let them know what has to go down.
Yeah, but I just feel like that makes Reese everything they don't want Reese to be, which is like an
Yeah.
overall ruler. And he's making these decisions, and yes, he gets them to agree, but he's making these decisions for the other courts and they're following along. So, and
Yeah.
they're all like, we can't let Reese become this overall ruler, but they're just letting him do all the dirty work and letting him do it.
Yeah. But I also feel like their priorities right now are probably the same as Feyre and Rhysand's with their courts, at least, to try and rebuild and regain. And they're just making time to try and save their world peace
Mm,
as well, but I feel like the priority is probably rebuilding and stacking up in case something goes down where they're ready to fight again.
yeah. Azrael says that he's been not been keeping track of Lucian when Reese is like, "Do you even know where Lucian is?" But Reese cannot tell if he is kidding or not. Lucian is currently in the spring court with Tam for the holiday. Azrael also makes a comment about how he wouldn't care if Lucian killed Grayson. Reese says that he will be going to speak with both Tamlin and Lucian and he would invite Feyre, but she probably wouldn't go. They also discuss how they're going to have to hunt down Braxis as no one has heard or seen from the monster since the war, but they would worry about this after the holiday. They're like, let him enjoy solstice and then
Yeah.
no one is screaming or dying, so he's clearly not doing anything too bad out there. But
Yeah, whatever. A black eye, a puffy lip, it's all
it's
right.
all
He'll be
right. It's
fine.
fine. Oh, and I also wanted to add at the end of this chapter, Reese asks Azrael when he's going to Rose Hall. And Az says, I think he says a few days after the solstice, and he still needs to buy gifts. And Reese says, buy her a gift for me. And
Yeah,
Reese comments on how he probably wouldn't put it on Reese's account. Like he would just buy the gift for Reese and say it was from Reese. But I
yeah.
have no idea what Rose Hall is. I have no idea who this girl is. So, of course, I dialed up Dial Amy and I said, Amy, what the heck is Rose Hall? And who is this she? So, she sent me back a screenshot because she doesn't know. We don't know, which is makes me feel a little bit better because we still don't know what this is.
Interesting.
And
I did not pick up on this at all.
and she sends me this screenshot that says Azrael mentions to Rhysand that he's headed to Rose Hall the morning after solstice, but he needs to do some shopping first. Rhysand then tells him to buy her something nice on his behalf and put it on his account, blah, blah, blah. Since Rhys tells Azrael to buy her something nice on his behalf, her could be referring to Azrael's mother. And Rose Hall is connected to Azrael and possibly his mother, but we don't know for sure because it is not touched upon. So,
Yeah, I remember thinking when I was reading, like, who's her? But I just thought, okay, maybe it's one of the girls in the group, but that makes sense that it would be his mom. Because is his mom still alive?
we don't know, I guess. I don't know.
She must be if they're buying a present for
Well,
her.
we don't know if the her is the mom. They're just
Right, right,
speculating
right.
that Rose Hall and the
Yeah.
her could be Azrael's mother. I
Interessante.
know, but where is Rose Hall?
I don't know. Is it on our map?
I don't think
Now I need to
so.
look. I don't think so either. We didn't even say anything about the map. Well, it's not any different from ACOWAR, so
Yeah.
nothing really to point out, but
But just needed to point that out, that little tidbit of information, because it's obviously it's mentioned here in this book, and we'll have to see where we go from there.
yeah, she never mentions anything for no reason, so
Definitely
good
not.
catch.
There's a name of a it sounds like a manor house, Rose Hall.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
But it's definitely not there's no other information on the Wikipedia page. So clearly, maybe in this new book coming out, we'll find out what it is.
Yeah.
Chapter 8. This is a Cassian point of view. There's a big winter storm that would be coming in and would be hitting the Illyrian camps hard. Cassian had given the girls and the boys time off for training to help prepare for the storm. Cassian goes to a store that was not sold out of clothing and sees that a female is working the store. We learn that this female's name is Emery, that her father died during the past war and she now owns the shop. Cassian realizes that this is why this store was not sold out like the other because there was a female running the shop, which is just ridiculous.
I know.
Her wings had been clipped. She was an only child, and with her father dead, it was rather brave that she was running the shop and calling it her own. Cassian said Amory reminded him of Nesta.
Yes, and this is my notable line for chapter 8, page 79. Cassian sets down 3 coins and says, "For the delivery charges." "To whom?" Emery asks. "You live above the shop, don't you? Then I assume you know enough about this camp and who has plenty and who has nothing. A storm is going to hit in a few days. I'd like you to distribute this amongst those who might feel its impact the hardest."
Mm-hmm.
What a good fucking guy. Come on, Nesta.
I know.
You gotta see it.
I know. I just, yeah,
He's so good.
it's complicated apparently.
Apparently.
And so he's like, let's say that these gifts were from the High Lord and not from me. And she's like, why? And he's like, well, people wouldn't even want to accept my money here. Never mind saying the gifts are from me.
Yeah.
And they wish each other a happy solstice. And this is when Cassian knows that a storm is brewing and it wasn't just the snowstorm.
Mm-hmm.
Dun, dun, dun.
Storm is a brewing.
Chapter 9. We are back to Feyre Darling. Feyre is having a hard time making her way to Racina's studio, even though she is carrying all of her gear. She reaches out to Reese on her way there.
Yes, and this is my notable line for chapter 9, page 83. Through the bond, Feyre says to Reese, I don't know if I can do this. Do you want me to come with you? He asks. To paint? I'd be an excellent nude model. Feyre says, You'll forgive me if I don't feel like sharing the glory that is you with anyone else. He says, Perhaps I'll model for you later then. It's been a while since we had paint involved.
Ooh.
Ooh, Stevie.
Yes.
He is fiending for her.
He needs her badly.
Mm-hmm. He probably pitched a tent during that mind bond conversation.
Literally. But Reese also reminds her that she can go or she cannot go. It's her choice. And there wasn't a
Mm-hmm.
wrong one. She could always go another time. She was
Mm-hmm.
also feeling uneasy after Reese asked her if she wanted to go see Tamlin with him. Even though she wished him happiness, she didn't want to see him again, maybe ever. Feyre knew what she was going to do. She knew what she needed to paint first, and she could not do this around other people. She thought about Racina's
Mm-hmm.
offer, but she never confirmed for sure that she would be attending. And after she lit the fire, she went in search for a stool. Some
Mm-hmm.
things you gotta do alone before you can be around others again. Chapter 10. Another Feyre point of view. Feyre painted for hours and hours. It had even taken her a moment to paint what she knew she needed to paint from the second she sat down.
Yes, and here's my notable line for chapter 10, page 85. More cleansing, more soothing than any of the hours I spent rebuilding the city. Equally as fulfilling, yes, but the painting, the unleashing, and facing it was a release, a first stitch to close a wound.
Hmm.
It's very therapeutic for her
Yes.
to paint.
We're in our healing era.
Yes.
Well, we've been in it for a long time, but we're back in it again. It's a cycle in this household.
I know. Well, the trauma just keeps piling on, so she's always going to be healing from something, I feel.
Apparently. Jesus.
Yeah.
The bells tolled 12 before she stopped painting and she looked at what she had created, which was her, the self she saw when she had looked in the Ouroboros. No one had bothered her, even with the fire burning in this abandoned art studio. People would have been able to see, though, the flame from the street. Feyre says that she would not bring the painting back to the townhouse for anyone to find, even Reese, because Reese still doesn't know what herself looked like in that mirror. She said she would
Yeah.
never tell him.
Mm.
She would leave the painting here to dry, and if anyone found it, she hadn't signed it, but she would come back for it tomorrow and hide it in one of the many closets in the House of Wind. I can just imagine Cassian just being a snoop going through closets, finding it, and being like, oh my god!
I know. Literally.
Chapter 11. We are back to Reese. Reese is taking a little day trip to the spring court to have a word with Tamlin and Lucian. Reese notices the lack of life in the spring court. There was no one around. The flowers are gone, the fountains have dried up, and when he knocks on the door, Tamlin himself opens the door, and he is looking like a hot mess express.
Mm-hmm.
Tamlin had been expecting him to come since Lucian told him that he would. Reese tries to crack a joke about how he thought his mate was the seer and not Lucian, but Tammy is obviously not in the mood to crack jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Though, of course, Lucian's going to be like, you're not defending your area, you're not protecting your borders. Like, eventually, Reese is going to show up on your doorstep and be like, WTF, dude, what the hell are you
Yeah.
doing in the spring court?
Yeah.
Doesn't take a seer to know that.
No.
Tamlin does let Rhysand into the house, though, and they were going to go have tea in the library. So they don't have tea. They just sit there. Rhys pointed out that it was probably the only room in the whole manor that had not been destroyed. Reese realizes that Lucian came here for Solstice out of pity, that he was even off now hunting for their dinner since there was no staff, and Lucian is just doing Tamlin's bidding again, just falling back into old
Yep, misery
patterns.
loves company.
But Tamlin wants to cut to the chase. He's like, "What do you want?
Why are you here?
Why are you here?" "Well, I'm obviously here because I want to know why you're not enforcing your
Enforce
borders."
them, enforce them.
Tamlin's like, do you see any sentries around to do that? I don't have anyone. I need an army to protect the border now that the wall
Which
is
is
gone."
actually
And
interesting because when Amarantha was sending all those fucking things, all those different creatures after him, he was taking them out one by one, and now you need an army to protect the border?
well, he's sad now, so he can't do it.
That's what I think the real reason is.
It's it's like him under the mountain. He's just sitting there doing
Literally.
nothing. Do something, Tamlin. Do something.
Tammy Do Nothing. That's his new nickname.
Literally, Tammy do nothing. I love that.
Tammy Do Nothing.
Love that. Need a sticker of that. But Feyre did do a very good job in tearing apart the spring court since it literally is nothing
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it was all Feyre. I think it was also the people seeing that Tamlin let Hybrid in. But I mean, Feyre, want to blame Feyre, fine. But I don't think it was Feyre's
No,
fault.
I think she definitely brought a lot of stuff to light. Feyre definitely planted the seed for them, but I feel like they all have their own minds and can make their own decisions and chose to left, regardless of what Feyre did. So,
Yeah, definitely.
not all her fault.
Yes. Rhysand tells Tamlin he won't be thanking him for reviving him, but he also would be grateful for all the times that he saved his mate, which he knows will get right under Tamlin's skin for saying
Yeah,
that one.
backhanded little comment there.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to get some sort of rise out of him
Yeah.
to have this like back and forth banter that he usually has with Tamlin, and he's just getting nothing from him. And he's like, I need you to be productive. I need you to get your shit together, even though you deserve all of this,
Yeah.
which is what he's going to go on to say. Even though you deserve all of this, like I need you to like have a little spark.
Yeah.
I need
Brawl
a
with me,
little
bro.
life in there.
Like,
Yeah.
let's go.
So you got your shit together. Rhys makes him aware that Feyre does know where Rhysand is when Tamlin asks him, does Feyre even know that you're here? And she's like, yeah. And that Feyre was disturbed to hear how his borders are not being patrolled or enforced. And it's like, yeah, technically she disbanded the spring court, but it's been months now.
Yeah.
Like you could make apologies, you could do something to try to maybe put things back together.
Yeah, like you're the one
but
that
you're
just
not.
let them all leave.
Yeah.
You didn't fight back or apologize then. Now you're in your fucking pity party.
Yeah. So this is when Tamlin says he would need an army with the wall down. And he said, well, that can be arranged. But Tamlin said he was not going to let anyone from the Night Court to reside in his lands. Rhys wants the peace to be maintained and for the humans to be protected from the Fae with the wall down. But Tamlin still will not let anyone in the Night Court or the Illyrians into his territory. Rhys says that everything that has happened to Tamlin is because of his own doing. Tamlin says, you should be happy. You won. You have your mate. Isn't that enough? And Rhys says, no, it's not enough. Rhys says that she survived him and him belittling her afterwards was never going to be the way to win her back.
Yeah.
Rhys says he deserves everything he got. You deserve everything that has befallen you. You deserve this pathetic, empty house, your ravaged lands. I don't care if you offered a kernel of life to save me. I don't care if you still love my mate. I don't care if you saved her from Hybern or 1,000 enemies before that. I hope you live the rest of your miserable life alone here. It is far more satisfying than slaughtering you.
Give it to him, Rhys. Tell him how you really feel, homie.
And then Tamlin says, get out! Get out!
Yeah, he looks down.
Get out!
Looks down dramatically. Get out. Can't even look him in the
Get
eye.
Get out of my house. That's when, like Amanda said earlier, Rhys notices that he does not have a shield around the manor, that anyone could go into his room in the middle of the night and slit his throat, and that maybe he was hoping that someday somebody would do that.
Or himself. Mental
But
note.
it's not gonna be today.
Nope.
Tam.
Nope.
Rhys returns to Valoris and finds Feyre. She had been out shopping. He briefly catches her up on what happened, and then before his mood gets worse and he goes back to kill Tamlin, he goes off shopping himself. So Feyre's like, where is this coming from? This isn't like you. But she totally understands that everything that Reese is feeling is completely
Yeah.
justified and that he is the bigger person and the bigger male for not slaughtering Tamlin
Yeah.
today.
I mean, it might have been
Because
a different story if Tamlin fought back a little, but he's not about to slaughter someone that won't even fight back.
Well, honestly, it would be better if Tamlin just fought back because I think Reese really was trying to get a rise out of him.
Yeah.
Get your life together. Get your shit together. Yes, you deserve this, and I want you to be miserable and alone, but this is bigger than both of us.
Yeah.
This is protecting the people who needs to be protected. Protect your borders or you don't deserve
Yeah, like
them.
he's the one that's on the border of the human lands and people are going to go through his territory to get through them. So he needs to wake up,
Mhm.
be on his A game, get over himself and get his shit together.
And that's that.
Yeah, listen to us, Tamlin. Tammy, do nothing.
Tammy do nothing. Reese doesn't end up finding anything for Feyre in the store, but does get Amryn a solstice gift at the jewelry store. I think he gets her a few
Multiple
somethings.
somethings. Yeah. I'll be Amryn to
Dang.
Reese.
Yeah. Fuck. I want the jewelry. Actually, I'd rather have his dick, so I'll take Feyre. Slut.
She'll take the pitch tent, please.
Yeah. It's like that will be my solstice gift. Thank you.
Yeah.
Chapter 12. It's back to Feyre, and this is such a fun
Yeah,
chapter. I
it is.
loved this chapter. Feyre comes home to see that Cassian has dumped a bunch of pine in the middle of the living room, and he says it's to decorate the house for the holiday, which Feyre seems very skeptical about.
Yeah.
Well, she's never decorated for the holiday before, so I guess she's like,
Wait, first doesn't he say, "Oh, it's custom to have a giant pile of pine in the middle of the floor,"
yeah,
or like, "This is our tradition," or
yeah.
something.
She's like, this
He's
is
such a smartass.
Yeah, she's just like, "This is how you greet me, I haven't seen you." So finally he like spins her around, gives her a big hug.
Yeah.
And they decide that they're gonna get the good bottle of wine out to get drunk and to decorate. And their decorating is terrible. It's so bad that when Azriel shows up, he starts fixing all of their work before anyone sees. And Azriel's like, it's like you guys are doing this on purpose.
Yeah. And here's my notable line for chapter 12, page 99. Asriel says, "It's almost like you guys tried to make it as ugly as possible." Cassian clutched at his heart. "We take offense to that." Asriel sighed at the ceiling. "Poor Az," I said, pouring myself another glass. "Wine will make you feel better."
Literally.
And she was right.
Yes, they coax him into drinking just as Reese arrives and teases Az that he knows that Cassian is the one always stealing the good wine and that he can tell which decorations Az had already fixed. Moore comes into the house and is like, oh my god, who let Feyre and Cassian decorate? Which is like, how did they know it was Feyre and Cassian that did that? And then Reese is like, I would expect better of an artist. So that just makes me think, is Feyre actually a good painter?
Yeah, I don't know. There's some clues in here that are like sketchy. She doesn't want to paint in front of anybody.
And
She can't decorate.
yeah. And Moore is like, who let Cassian and Feyre decorate when Moore saw what Feyre was doing to that fucking cabin?
Yeah, true. Bunch of stick figures.
Yeah. Amryn now comes into the house and Cassian says she looks like an angry snowball. Amryn goes back at
Yeah.
Cassian about Nesta and how he would need to save his strength to deal with her if she even showed up or showed up sober. Amryn also informs us that Varian will be coming to dinner and they can deal with it.
Yeah, I think that's also interesting too that she says that because it kind of makes me feel like she's seeing Nesta because she knows she's drinking.
Yeah, I'm sure she is because Amryn and Nesta had that like little bond.
Yeah, they were besties
I don't know if they
learning
were
about the book and
besties, but they were
I feel like they were.
they were comfortable in silence together.
Yeah, staring at each other as training.
Yeah. Feyre finds Elaine in the kitchen helping Noella and Serdwin with getting dinner ready for the family. Feyre wanted to know how Elaine's visit with Nesta went. And what I thought was so nice is that the twins know Elaine's moods and know when she's having
Yeah.
a good day and a bad day and can give Feyre the cues on how the day is going.
Yeah. I love them.
Yes. Elaine had invited Nesta to dinner tonight, but she hadn't responded, so clearly she wasn't going to be showing up. Feyre asked if it was worth fetching her, but Elaine says no, it would be worse and she wouldn't want to be here. She also makes a comment, "Are you asking me as your sister or as a seer?" And
Yeah.
I thought that was like really interesting. Though Feyre says that they haven't seen any of her powers in work since the war ended.
Yeah. Is she still a seer now that the cauldron has been reborn, basically?
I don't know. I don't know. I honestly don't
Mm.
know.
She's keeping all her seeing to herself.
Yeah. Well, maybe she doesn't have
If she
anything
does have
important
it.
to see, so
True.
Feyre had set up a grave for her father, and Elaine visited at least once a month, but Nesta never went. She even declined the invitation when they went for the first time. Feyre says that Nesta is still a part of this family, even though Elaine comments that she sure doesn't act like it. Even Elaine had enough with Nesta's shit at this point.
Yeah, well, she literally was coddled for 20 years
Yeah.
to nothing. She's probably like, what the fuck is going on with her?
Yeah. Nesta told Elaine that she wasn't coming for solstice dinner. They start to bring out the food to the family room, and all the gang start to greet Elaine. And I love how Cassian gives her a big smooch on the cheek.
I
Moore gives her
know.
a kiss on the cheek. Reese just, smiles at her because she lives there, so he always sees her. And then
Yeah.
the moment with Azriel, and he's like, "I can take that from you." And she's like,
Yeah.
"Hi," and they're all just, like, watching their interaction. What's gonna happen?
I know, and I feel like that's really why she wanted to change her clothes to impress Azriel.
Yes, and Elaine goes to change her clothes and out of her apron, and Az makes them all wait for her to return before they start eating, which Moore's like to Cassian, "You're such a pig," and he's like, "Your plate is, like, half empty. You've already been shoving food down your throat. Calm
Yeah.
down." The banter of the inner circle was just, like, really back here in this chapter.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
But also Reese makes a good point about it being something that his mother had went through, but I feel like it's more than that at this point. Like he's defending Elaine because I think he's crushing on her.
yeah, I think Reese is hoping that it just has something to do with how his mother is treated and not to do with Elaine because that's a huge shitstorm that Reese will then have to deal with because of Lucian.
Yeah. But also you can't change your mate either. So if she's already mated to Lucian, they'll never mate, right?
They will never be mates, but she could choose to be with Azriel. But then Lucian would then have the right to kill Azriel or attack him or whatever. But
Oh
it
shit.
would just make things very complicated.
Yeah. Interesting.
Amryn complains how awful it is to eat and the consequences of eating food. And Elaine's like, "What are the consequences?" And Reese is like, "Don't answer that." They all tease Amryn about if she knows or does not know how to use a toilet. And she's like, "I know how to sit on a toilet." It's just the most ridiculous conversation. Elaine
It's
wants
funny that she never had to go to the bathroom before. Like, you never think of these things because obviously it's like second nature to us to have to go to the bathroom every day. But for her to be this creature that drinks blood and doesn't even eat and she doesn't have to go to the bathroom ever, it's just funny.
I know. I just think that's weird that she never had to use the restroom before. She was
Yeah.
drinking liquids. I just don't understand.
The blood just seeps into her and that's it.
Gross. Elaine wanted to know if Amryn could have chosen to be male or if she could have switched, but Amryn makes a mean comment about how Elaine will never be able to be human again. Reese, Cassian, and Az step in to help Elaine. Cassian's like, "Pick on someone your own size." Then Az is like, "I feel sorry for the mice," or whatever he says. They're not going to let people pick on Elaine. It's so weird how they're all like, "Oh, we'll defend Elaine, but Nesta's such a bitch." I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, Nesta does act like a bitch, but
They're probably warming up to her at this point. Yeah. Nessa's been
yeah.
MIA for how long now? A few months at least after the war. And they're like with Elaine every single day in the townhouse. So I can
Yeah.
see how they're
Yeah.
coddly to her more than Nesta, who wants
And
nothing to do with
yeah,
them.
is mean to them. And
Literally.
Elaine's like, "Hi, I'm gonna bake
Yeah.
you."
She's like, you live your life and I'll live mine.
Yeah,
Nesta.
stupid. Sophie was like, "We're gonna go on a little field trip tonight, Resand." And so they are gonna go find Nesta after dinner. She wasn't at home, so she had Reese use his powers to locate Nesta. Reese says if anyone propositions favor while she's in the tavern, that they would both be available in a few hours. And she's like, "Ugh, you're so gross." She doesn't want Reese going in with her for it would seem like they were attacking Nesta, and she just doesn't want a big scene in
Mhm.
this tavern.
Yeah.
Which brings us to chapter 13, still in Feyre's point of view. Feyre enters the tavern where
Oh,
Nesta
son.
was sitting with a group of men playing cards. Out of all the places in Valoris, she was always in one of the seediest taverns that they had.
Yes. Here is my notable line for chapter 13, page 114. I believe this is some foreshadowing here. Feyre is thinking, a queen without a throne. That is what I'd call the painting that swept into my mind. Another
Another
reference
reference.
to our Nesta girl being a
Queen. Yep.
queen. Queen Nesta without a throne.
Hmm.
Hmm. Interessante, but I'll just leave it at that and let you continue.
Apparently, Nesta has been drinking a lot and taking random men home to her apartment, which she doesn't know when the first time it happened. And she wondered what Cassian thought about it, if he knew about it at all, and how he would feel about it.
I'm
Which
sure he knows.
I'm sure he knows, and I'm sure that's why he's been taking out his anger on people in the training ring.
Yes, and on Amron.
Yes. Nesta was not happy to see Feyre, and Feyre has all the males she was playing cards with leave the table so they can have a little chit chat.
Yep.
Feyre and Nesta were having a stare down, and even Reese had his money on Nesta. He's like, she's not gonna break first. You're gonna have to say
Yeah.
something. And Feyre's like, shut up. But it is Nesta who breaks the ice and says, is your mate just gonna stand outside in the cold all night? How she knows that Reason's there, but I mean, I guess she's like, where there's one, there's another. But I think that Feyre would come to find Nesta on her own, but she knows that Reason's outside.
She knows everything.
That's true. She does know
She's
it.
a witch.
She is a witch. She did say when Lord Devlin asked, he goes, are you a witch? She goes, yep.
Yeah. She's like, yep, I am.
Feyre wants Nesta to come to Solstice dinner for Elaine. Nesta says Elaine could hang out with her here, but this is not Elaine's scene. And Feyre tries to be diplomatic about this because she doesn't want to insult her own people because she is their high lady and she's in their presence right
Yeah.
now. And she doesn't want to be like, Elaine's not going to come to this fucking shithole to be around these scummy ass people. Like, if you want to see Elaine, you can come see Elaine at Solstice dinner. Instead, she's like, this
Yeah.
isn't Elaine's speed.
She's like, she's scared of crowds.
Yeah, this is too much for her.
Yeah.
Nessa's like, we don't even celebrate this holiday, so why do you even care? And that she has her own life and they have theirs. And Feyre doesn't understand why Nesta is distancing herself. And Nesta doesn't understand why Feyre needs her to be a part of her merry little band. Feyre's like, you're my sister. And I think this is
Yeah.
where it always comes down to the two of them is that Nesta is so easily able to distance herself from her sisters, and Feyre can't, even after all the hurt that they've done to her.
Yeah.
And I feel like Nesta and Feyre made decent strides in the last couple of books, but now it's almost like we're back at square one. And I don't even know if we're back at square one. I feel like we're below it at this point with all
Yeah.
the
I
with
know.
what Nesta's doing. And
She's literally avoiding
yeah,
them all,
yeah. And
including Elaine, who she was obsessed with.
this is why I think it was such a bad idea the day they got home from the war when Elaine was like, should we check on her? And Feyre was like, not today. Let's let her sort through things and then we'll step in. I think they immediately needed to go and step in to be like, hey, we're here for you. We're here supporting you, instead of letting her walk up to that room alone, dealing with her own feelings and feeling probably like my sisters don't even care about what just happened to
Yeah.
me or how I'm feeling.
Yeah. She's not going to be the one to approach them. So they should have approached her for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think she, she stayed around after the war was over for a minute. She was still there in the townhouse. They had every opportunity to reach out to her then, and I just don't think it was done.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess we'll have to keep reading on to see why Nesta is
I
feeling
guess
the way
so.
she's feeling.
Yep.
Feyre tries to bring up the father, but Nesta won't even let her finish the sentence. Nesta wants her to leave and reminds Feyre that the rent is due soon. And Feyre says that she can come to dinner on the holiday if she wants to see her rent check. And then she leaves, and she feels Nesta's eyes literally the whole way home.
Damn. She sounded like a straight alcoholic. She's like, give me money and leave me alone.
Well,
Let me drink.
of course, Feyre and Reese are totally bankrolling her. She doesn't have a job and she doesn't work. So
No.
They're paying for
Yeah.
that stupid apartment, and they're paying for all the drinks that she's having.
Yeah, for sure.
They're being enablers.
Yeah, little enablers.
In our last chapter of this section, chapter 14, we're back to our Rhysand point of view. Rhys is on a walk with Moore, looking at the houses he had known his whole life and expected to be there long after he had been around, but they were ruined during the attack. Rhys was getting an update from Moore on the families who had lived here and how they were doing, which Moore basically says that they would most likely sell than ever come back to this because it was just too traumatic
Mhm.
for them.
Yeah.
This alone time between Reese and Moore had been a long time coming, with the tension that they've had since the war due to the situation with Care and Eris. Care would be coming to visit soon, Reese thought most likely in the spring, and Az and Cassian had been prepping for any Huon City visits for months. Moore says that she trusts Reese and that she just wished there had been another way, and he agrees, which it's so nice to see them just agree to disagree at this point. And she
Yeah, and
said,
come back
yeah,
together.
and she says that she trusts him,
Yeah.
so that's obviously very big for Reese. And
Yeah.
Reese offers for her to be away when Care visits, but Moore doesn't want it to seem like she is scared or running from him.
Yes, and here's my notable line for chapter 14, page 125. As can infiltrate most courts, most lands, but I might need you to win those lands over. Treaty negotiations are dragging on too long. They're not happening at all, she says. You wouldn't need to be gone for months, just visits here and there. Casual. Casual, but make the kingdoms and territories realize that if they push too far or enter into human lands, we'll obliterate them? Something like that.
Yep, literally like,
Exactly what I was
bye.
referring to. Yeah. So funny.
Obviously, she is the best person for the job out of their inner circle, but Reese wanted to remind her that this was an offer, not an order, and that he would
Mhm.
figure out another way if she did not want to accept. Rhys said one word and he will tell Baron about Eris's plans for the throne, and that he always said that it was up to her how Care died, and that he hadn't been much better lately when he paid a visit to Tam Tam, but Moore said that he should be dead after what Tamlin did to Feyre. And Rhys is like,
Yeah.
wow, bloodthirsty Moore. Jeez.
Yep.
Though Moore seemed like she was going to accept at the end of this chapter, even though he tells her to take time to think about it. Moore wants to know, if she does accept, does that mean that they win? And Reese says only she can decide that.
Mhm.
And that is the end of part one of A Court of Frost and Starlight.
Wow. It's already kind of crazy all the information we're getting just from the front end of this book. So I can't even imagine what other information we're about to get.
Yeah, it's just kind of catching us up on what happened at the
Yeah.
end of ACOWAR, during ACOWAR, and then what still needs to kind of be tied up in the next big books. And it's kind of just like
Yeah.
reinforcing it or retelling it to us. And I feel like that's why I don't remember it fully. I remember this information, but I just felt like I read it in the next book, not this one. But I,
Right.
but I
Yeah.
know like the information. So I think it's just a nice little reminder of,
Yeah. It's like prepping us for the next
yeah,
book
and
almost.
reminding us what hasn't been tied up yet.
Yeah, for sure. But I do have a few predictions that I want to mention before we close out this episode.
Okay.
One is I believe that Feyre will be given the shop in the rainbow in Valeris for her birthday
Mm.
slash winter solstice by Rhysand. He's definitely going to get her that. And because I think this, I also think he is going to find that painting that she painted
Oh, interesting.
and see for himself what she saw in the Ouroboros.
Interesting. Okay, I like those.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's all I have.
That's fine. I mean, it's not like there's too much.
I know, it's just a little
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I think I'm right.
Yeah.
I'm very confident about my predictions this time around.
Yeah.
That's all we have for you today. I can't wait to keep reading and find out all of this information before we start the next big bad boy,
Mhm.
Silver Flames. Please let us know what you think by leaving us a review and comments on any of the platforms you are listening/watching on, or on our social media pages. This helps tremendously to get the word out and lead more listeners to find our show and tune in.
Yes, don't forget to email, follow, subscribe, and rate us 5 stars and tell all your friends about us. And we hope the rest of your day is blissful.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. Join us next week where we start part 2 of A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas, covering chapters 15 through 28. Happy reading!